There are limits to what even the world's last remaining superpower can achieve, and over the last couple of weeks, the United States has received some instruction in those limits. First from the government of India, and now today from the government of Pakistan. Neither has been deterred by U.S. warnings of what the consequences would be if either government conducted nuclear tests. They both went ahead and did it anyhow. The government of Pakistan had more to lose. That country is smaller, poorer, and much more dependent on international assistance than India. The United States was apparently prepared to offer some considerable incentives if Pakistan would just say no. Instead, the Pakistanis have apparently conducted 5 nuclear tests of their own to match the 5 Indian tests, and are reportedly planning even more, and claim that they are able to arm some of their missiles with nuclear warheads. There is some doubt in U.S. military circles whether the Pakistanis actually have that capability, but then as late as last night, one senior U.S. diplomat was confidently predicting that Pakistan wouldn't conduct any nuclear tests. And when the Indians conducted theirs a couple of weeks ago, the U.S. government was caught totally off guard. Well, here's more now from Nightline correspondent Chris Bury.
The cheering in Pakistan today is another vivid reminder that domestic politics trumps international pressure when it comes to building the bomb. Pakistan! After all, the world witnessed the same kind of national celebration in India little more than 2 weeks ago. India's detonations then of 5 nuclear devices have now apparently been matched blast for blast by its bitter enemy.
Our hand was forced by the present Indian leadership's reckless actions.
Today, Pakistan's Prime Minister told his country, "We have settled the score with India. We have made 5 nuclear explosions."
We could not have remained complacent about threats to our security.
In a separate, even more ominous announcement, Pakistan warned nuclear warheads could soon be placed on missiles capable of reaching India's major cities within minutes of launch. But how seriously should we take the latest developments in the Asian arms race?
If Pakistan does what it says it's going to do, deploy missiles with nuclear warheads, and India follows suit, this will become the most dangerous and unstable military confrontation, certainly since the end of the Cold War and probably since the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962.
Pakistan is some distance away from being a proper, fully-fledged nuclear power. There's a long distance. There's a lot of technology that has to be developed from exploding a nuclear weapon to actually weaponizing it, to actually creating a device that's stable and can fit perhaps in the warhead of a missile.
In Washington, President Clinton, who had made a midnight plea to Pakistan's prime minister, was clearly disappointed.
By failing to exercise restraint and responding to the Indian test, Pakistan lost a truly priceless opportunity to strengthen its own security, to improve its political standing in the eyes of the world. And although Pakistan was not the first to test, 2 wrongs don't make a right.
Like India, Pakistan now faces automatic U.S. sanctions that could cut off hundreds of millions in international aid. But unlike India, Pakistan does not have an economy strong enough to withstand a heavy blow. Today, Pakistan declared a state of emergency to prepare for a possible economic disaster.
The Pakistan economy is already wobbling. They had severe problems before this crisis. This is probably going to push it over the edge, and this raises some very serious security problems. Do we want a destabilized Pakistan with nuclear weapons?
For Pakistan and India, of course, neither the stick of American sanctions nor the carrot of additional U.S. aid was enough to stop the nuclear tests. That is an embarrassing setback for President Clinton, whose many personal pleas fell on deaf ears. But the nuclear detonations also shatter any illusion that the United States or other members of the old nuclear club have any real control over who joins today.
And I ask Pakistan to exercise restraint to avoid a perilous nuclear arms race.
There's no question that we are in the process of losing our ability to control the whole proliferation problem.
John Mearsheimer, a political scientist at the University of Chicago, believes the U.S. is now essentially impotent to halt the spread of nuclear weapons. At the Group of 8, or G8 summit this month, President Clinton could not convince key allies to even support economic sanctions against India.
We saw this problem for the first time in Iraq, and we saw it recently with regard to India. The other G8 members, except for Japan, were unwilling to impose sanctions, economic sanctions, on India. So that's a major problem.
For decades, of course, the U.S. and Soviet Union survived a tense nuclear standoff.
1-0.
The question is, can India and Pakistan do the same?
The fact that both sides have nuclear weapons makes both sides extremely cautious, either in a crisis or in peacetime, in large part because the consequences of going to war when nuclear weapons are involved are just so horrendous.
But India and Pakistan, unlike the U.S. and Soviet Union, are neighbors who have gone to war 3 times in the last 50 years, and they are still shooting at each other in the disputed area of Kashmir.
And now they're introducing nuclear weapons into this mix without a command and control structure such as the